I hear you. Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kasen, and it is Thursday, June the 5th, and it happens to be 4:29, which is not bad considering what I did this afternoon, which is basically what they call SNAFUs. That's snafu, and Felicia Hampton, you probably know what snafu means, right?
Enlighten me.
Well, it means situation normal, AFU. So I think you can figure that one out, right?
Okay.
So I caused that problem, but nevertheless, we're okay. And I've got you here with me, and appreciate you being here, Felicia. Naturally, we're normally on the Bosley show, but here we are on Showdown.
On Showdown, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're doing okay on your end, right?
I am. And I just want to say thank you for the invite. I look forward to tonight's show, and let's get it going.
Absolutely. You know, generally, everybody knows that my favorite topic is Donald J. Trump. And you know, for very good reasons. I mean, we all know that the man's got serious mental issues. And it's so funny because I was on the air this afternoon with Jamie Allman as I was telling our good friend Anthony Shahid. Jamie and I were talking about all the different kind of Nazi, neo-Nazi things that Donald is up to, which, of course, people like Jamie don't acknowledge that that's what it is, but I think that is what it is. But at any rate, we talked for about a half hour this afternoon, and we brought up all the various problems that Donald's having. And the people on his side, Felicia, don't see any of it. None of it. They have no idea that there's a problem.
And so the question is, like, what is their response to Elon Musk now sending out all of the,
Right.
text was on Twitter, you know what I'm saying? So how do you justify that? Some think that cat fight that they're having on Twitter may possibly be just a distraction and that they're up to something else, and others believe that no, they have actually had a falling out.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. They deny it. That is, his people. The Donald Trump people deny that there's any problem at all. However,
Twitter?
not
They've been on X?
well, they're saying there's no problem. I was on the air with them for an hour. They say there's no problem. However, Donald says there's a problem, and Elon Musk says there's a problem. Yeah, I mean, this afternoon, they were just viciously tearing each other apart. So for two people who don't have a problem, it looks like they've got a problem. But all of that aside, you know, the thing for me is, anybody who trusts anything that Donald Trump says is going to always end up exactly where Elon Musk is right now. And, you know, I've always pointed out that, you know, Rudy Giuliani was right on board with Donald, just like Elon Musk. They were best buddies. They were doing everything together. And in the end, when Rudy Giuliani was bankrupt and desperate for some food, Donald wouldn't even get him a hamburger. And plus, he ended up losing his law license. Now, Elon Musk has like $150 billion. So you would think that he would be safe, right?
Right.
Well, we'll see. Because, you know, Donald has a way of bankrupting everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I can't tell you what that result's going to be. I will say, you know, getting off of that subject, here's a lie that Donald is telling. And then we're going to talk about what I suggested to you earlier. But I just wanted to get all this in. You know, Donald said this afternoon, or no, actually this morning, he said that he had a great phone call with Xi Jinping from China, and that they're really making great progress towards a great deal for world trade. And here's the problem with that, Felicia. He says these things all the time. It's always a lie. I guarantee you the man's lying. And so we'll see on that. But he says it's true. Lie. When he said it, the stock market took a big jump up, and then about 20 minutes later, started falling again. And basically, the market was trying to respond to the idea that interest rates might finally be ready to go down, which is hysterical, because if they were watching the interest rate market, they would know that that's a complete lie, because they can say what they want, but the rates are the rates. The numbers are the numbers. And the numbers are going up, not down. So, you know, Donald can say it, and the market did take a second jump up on all of that. And finally, by the end of the day, the market had dropped about 900 S&P points from the high. And while that's not a crash, it's definitely a crush. I mean, it was bad. And, you know, if we go into Friday and the markets start falling further, Donald's going to find himself in some serious trouble. And I don't know how you feel about this, Felicia, but my brothers insist that there's nothing that can happen to Donald that will hurt him. But what do you think?
You know, I guess we just need to wait it out and see. If Elon, some of the things that he's saying on Twitter, if someone was to produce some receipts, I really don't think that his followers would change. I really don't, because they have been faithful and by him every step of the way. And so even if people came with receipts, if someone came with receipts and they have come with receipts, but if Elon was to come with receipts, and because he said that real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, that is the real reason they have not been made public.
That is what he's saying.
And so he's like, you know, time to drop a real bomb. So my question is, if he was to produce receipts of that, if for some reason something like that was to leak out, right, for the media, I still don't believe Donald Trump's true followers would change their mind how they feel.
Yeah.
Because when you're with someone, you're loyal, you're with them all the way to the end. Now, we might feud in the background, but in the open, it looks like I'm riding with you all the way to the end. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I don't think that people would see what they expect to see, but I do want to add this little caveat to this. I think about this man. Do you remember a man by the name of D.C. Stevens?
I don't.
He was a man who resurrected the KKK out of Indiana.
Okay.
So the KKK had been formed and everything, and then they kind of died off, right? And then around 1920 or so, D.C. Stevens went back and resurrected it. And I mean, he had numbers, a large amount of numbers, like hundreds of thousands of people involved, you know, in enrolling and listening. And of course, it went national. The thing about him is that it was a lot of politicians that was, you know, in this, and then with that was a lot of corruption. D.C. Stevens took a lady and, to my understanding, raped her, repeatedly, kidnapped her and raped her to the point that the only way that she felt like she could get away was to poison herself and end up in the hospital. Somehow the story goes. And so she, of course, she ends up in the hospital and she dies. And they charge him. Now he's connected to all the top politicians, right? And including the president and everyone. You have to look at the story and read it. And what happened is that he thought that they were going to arrest him. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
For, you know, for everything. And they did not. He did not get a pardon. So he got so angry because he ends up in jail that while he's in jail, he starts snitching and telling on everyone.
Sure.
And there was a number of politicians, and I said this when this administration took office. Even before this administration took office in November, you know, within that party, there was a lot of conflict, not only in Missouri, but even down, you know, at the national level. There was a lot of conflict. You know, conflict within the party itself, from, you know, the Freedom Caucus and just different conflict, right? So I said that, and I'm gonna wrap this up, that this administration was going to experience that. Something is going to happen where someone is going to feel like, hey, you should have protected me, or you should have, like you said, Donald Trump wouldn't even give somebody a meal, and who had been loyal to him forever, right? So somebody's going to get in their feelings, and someone is going to bring the information that the American people and the world has been waiting. Was the election really rigged? You know, did Donald Trump really do those things? Will we see videos? Will we see, you know, ladders? Like, will it be audio? Like, will this drop? And when this do, I believe that they're going to turn on each other so bad that just like during D.C. Stevens times in the early 1920s, when he came and resurrected the KKK, the people ended up going to jail, losing their jobs, having to resign from positions, and to my understanding, some even committed suicide. That is how big this scandal got.
Yeah.
And I believe with Donald Trump and Elon Musk having this battle, that someone is going to get in their feelings, and someone is going to really bring some information to the American people, and we're going to see. But listen, I'm going to tell you, his true followers are not going to believe it.
Yeah.
They're not going to believe it.
Well, let's face it, Felicia. He owes $100 million to E. Jean Carroll for raping her, and they don't care about that. And in fact, they say it never happened.
See.
Yeah. But he owes her $100 million. I guess he owes her $100 million for something, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my desire is that we get back to the people's work.
Yeah.
You know, I really feel like this is something that is being done as a distraction, but I also believe that there's a lot of truth to what's being done on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
I really do. I believe that it is a distraction because we'll get so caught up, you know, in this feud that we'll lose sight of the mission. For those who don't know any better, we'll lose sight of the mission, and then we'll look up and something will come out, another bill will come in.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, watch what's going to happen tomorrow morning, because we've had two interesting days with job numbers, and tomorrow morning is going to be the big number from the government. And you know, yesterday was the slowest growth in job numbers in years. Today was a very big increase in unemployment claims. And tomorrow is the government's number on how many private jobs were created last month. And it's just going to be an interesting number, because if it's as bad as some people think, number one, Donald's going to lose his mind. But besides that, and this brings us to where I think you and I may be able to talk about some other issues, and that is that, you know, one of the biggest problems out here is young people who are coming out of high school, coming out of college, and can't get any work. Now, you and I both are teachers. Tell me on your side, what are you seeing or what are you hearing from young people as far as how they feel about their lives?
Well, of course, they all want to, graduate from high school, and they have a vision on what their life should look like or what they desire their life to look like in their future. And so jobs is important to that. Workforce development is important, in order for them to sustain. And many of the students that I've worked with have graduated from high school, and they came out with certifications and were able to help their parents, help their mothers, help their younger siblings, right? And also be able to live a life that, I see my students and I see them all grown up.
And these, by the way, are in healthcare, right?
Well, let me say this. We have different majors at the high school that I work at. There are different majors. My students, yes, are in healthcare, but I connect with more than just the students in my classroom.
Okay.
And so, but the thing is that they leave the district graduating from high school with a skill that they can get a job. Now, if we start removing these jobs and minimizing the number of opportunities, then I believe that we're going to have a problem. You look at crime goes up, mental health issues begin to rise, right? And so, yeah, it's important that we be able to provide our students when they graduate from high school with an opportunity to be able to go to work or pick up a trade or, whatever that looks like. But it would be detrimental. I've had students who leave and they like, okay, Miss Hampton, I've been able to help my mother pay the rent. I was able to put some money aside and buy me a car and help my mother with this, And I just think that we shouldn't be minimizing and reducing access to job opportunities right now. This is not the time.
Yeah. A lot of students that I've worked with, they either think they're going into the National Football League or basketball, or if they don't think it, at least they're hoping that that's what's going to happen. Have you seen a lot of that?
I can't necessarily say that I've seen a lot of it. I've heard a couple of students in my presence say, hey, my goal is to get to this and get to that level. But many of my students that I've worked with either plan to take a gap year, or they plan to get a job or go to the military, or go off to a university out of state. And many of them go to St. Louis Community College. I haven't heard in my classroom and the conversations that I've had with students, many of them, I can't say many, a small percentage has said, hey, I'm getting to the NBA, or, my goal is to get to the NFL. I can really say that.
Okay.
Although, we had a good season at the high school.
Right.
We had a good season.
Right.
But I haven't heard them. I heard them say, honestly, I've heard my students say this today. I want to be a registered nurse. I want to get into medical school. I've heard them say, my plan is to go to the military, and, they get excited. I have not heard many of them. Now, is that something common that's among the youth that are into sports? Absolutely. It's very common. But I think the fact that I'm not a coach, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not getting, that report that is what they desire. So we might have to ask a coach or something, or another man, maybe it's a man thing, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing about it is that the percentage who are going to get in is obviously very, very small.
Very small.
Yeah. And what I tell the kids, I mean, you mentioned medical school and law school, which I always encourage the kids to consider that, or certainly different scientific research. That's, high level kind of achievement for any young person.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, which we really don't talk about to our kids, but I talk a lot about to the kids, is that if they learn about economics and markets, and they go to a great college, which they can do. Look, they might not be able to get into the NBA, but they could get into Harvard if they wanted to. That I know. It might take a lot of work. It might take a lot of desire, but our kids could do that. And here's the thing: if they go to one of those really good schools, and they do economics and markets, they can go to the top investment banks in the country, and they can make $150,000 to $180,000 first year out of school, which obviously is some very big money. And I have to tell you, I mean, especially I think you and I and Anthony and Freeman and my old good friend Onion Horton, I mean, we were interested in black students reaching this achievement level because they have been kept out for so long.
Yes, yes.
And here's the thing. So let me back up and ask you, do you think that these cell phones, social media, do you think that's getting in the way of our kids?
I do, and I know that this year that not only the children, the adults. Let me just be honest, the adults. I went to the gas station earlier today, and I walked in, and I know the lady. I believe she might be an owner, or maybe I don't know if she owned the gas station or what. But I walked in, and she continued to browse her phone as I stood there and waited for her to acknowledge that I was at the counter to pay for my gas. Yes, and so not just the students. Yes, it's a distraction in the classroom, and some say that the distraction that is happening in the classroom is on the teacher who has poor classroom management skills. I say it's more complex than that.
Far more.
It's more than just the teacher having poor management, class management. It is on administration. It is on the parent. It is on the classroom teacher, right? And most importantly, it's on the student.
Sure.
Because you need to be accountable. See, we remove the student from their accountability on a lot of things. Like, oh, it's the teacher, teachers, and they're doing this. It's the district, it's the administration. And rarely do you go in and tap in and say, hey, let's take a look at the parent and where the parent is. Or let's take a look at this student and see where this student is. It's complex. It's all of us, all the pieces together. And so, yes, that cell phone is a distraction to the point that legislators put something out this session that they wanted to have the cell phones removed from the classrooms across the state of Missouri.
And how would they enforce that?
That I'll tell you that there is one of the schools in our district collect those phones at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
And they give them back. However, the thing is that they're a smaller school. Like, they have smaller numbers according, I think they may have maybe 300 or 400 students in the school versus a school with almost 1,000 students.
Well, how are you going to get your hands on their phone if they don't want to take it out voluntarily?
I don't know. I know you and I had a conversation before, and didn't you tell me at one of the schools that you were working at that the students, there was very minimal physical altercations, and that the cell phones wasn't that major of a distraction, or am I wrong with that?
Okay. Well, you're right about no fighting, and that's a cardinal ritter. But on the cell phones, I'm telling you, it is no different than anywhere else in America. The kids have their phones out. They're not allowed, but they do. The adults have their phones out. And I'm not talking about just teachers. I'm talking about administrators. I'm talking about staff people. I'm talking about parents who walk in the building. This is America. Everybody's got their phone out. I don't care who you are. And I don't know what you would do to stop it, except for one thing. Now, here's what I do. And I can tell you right now, it's not 100% successful, but it's pretty successful. I look at a kid and I say, Johnny, can you please put your phone away? And they look at me and say, sure. And they do. And then maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, their phone pops out again because you know this is an addiction. I mean, they don't do it to be mean. They don't do it to be jerks. They do it because I think the whole world is addicted to these phones. What do you think?
It is the absolute truth. My apology. I think you couldn't hear me.
That's okay.
It's the absolute truth. The world is addicted to the phone, right? And to the point, like I shared before, so not only am I an educator, but I also work in the behavioral health, right?
Sure.
And a lot of times with the adolescents, when they come in, they're being admitted because they have fallen out with their parent or another adult about taking their phone or taking their electronic device.
Sure.
It almost set them into a depression. And I've seen on multiple times, right? Not just 1 or 2 students on the unit. I'm talking out of 20 students, 20, I'm calling students, patients. Out of 20 patients, a good 50% of them would be there and admitted because they began to either get physically or verbally violent with their parent, or they wanted to self-harm themselves because their phone was removed.
Right.
Now, it is something with these phones and electronic devices.
Well, let me tell you a little story. There's no secret here. I'm 73 years old, so I've been around a long time. And in my early days, I was a stock trader. And when I say that, I was trading stocks back when I was 13 years old. So obviously I was in middle school and then high school. And there were no phones, right? Nobody had a cell phone. So can you guess where I got prices and information about the stock market?
Where?
You ever hear of a payphone?
Are you serious?
I would go.
During a time when you could put a dime in and make a phone call, or what?
It was a quarter.
Okay.
And I'd put a quarter in the payphone, and I would call my broker, and I would get all the prices, and I would do whatever I had to do, and then I would go to class. And I can tell you this, every teacher that I had when I was a kid, all the way through high school, when I'd walk in the room, the first thing they would say is, Kasen, what's the market doing? And I'll just tell you, naturally, you can imagine that in 2025, through my stock trading activities, that I'm connected to my phones. And so I do that. But you know, I have encouraged kids to learn about markets, and they've got their phones that they can use to access all of this. And some of the kids really take to this in an amazing way because they actually have the equipment that they need because they've got that cell phone. So, you know, for me, the cell phone has a very specific connection to the outside world, besides the obvious news connection. I understand the kids aren't doing that. The kids are all texting each other and playing on TikTok. So I get it that that's different. But on the other hand, I think that there are many, in fact, I know, I don't think, I know, there are many kids who find this very interesting. And if we created an army of people who were knowledgeable about economics when they got out of school, it wouldn't be any great loss, would it?
No.
So I'm just saying, you know, we got to be careful when we try to talk about how it would be a great idea to get rid of these phones, because there are uses for these phones that could attract kids to all kinds of activity that are things that we would like to see kids doing in school.
I agree.
Now, the other side, and this is what I'm going to ask you about when I come back from my break, and that's all the talk about depression and students shaming each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that in a minute.
The impact of the cell phone in the classroom. Let's do it.
You bet. Okay. So first thing I'm going to say, though, is that one thing our kids could definitely do is they could dress up like me every day and wear a suit and a tie, and they couldn't get a better deal if they went to the St. Louis Suit Company. That is the absolute best. And here's something that you don't know, or maybe you do, because I didn't know this, but I was at the St. Louis Suit Company today, and Freeman Jr. buys his suits at the St. Louis Suit Company. I mean, they're all buddies down there. And apparently, and like I say, you know that Freeman was in Costa Rica recently. Did you know that was he down there fishing?
I just knew he was on special assignment.
Oh, okay. Because I'm going to say that there's a story around that Freeman is a big time fisher.
Yes, I know that's the truth. I know that.
Okay. So yeah. Anyway, so they were telling me the fish stories about Freeman today. So there's all kinds of things that you can get at the St. Louis Suit Company besides great suits and shoes and shirts and all of that. And the ties are $5 for the nicest silk ties that you're ever going to find anywhere. And the St. Louis Suit Company has been there for 30 years. So obviously they're doing something right.
And tell us what where is. Where is?
Oh, absolutely. It's on the corner of Central and Forsyth in Clayton. And you know, everybody goes to that corner and they go in a little door and they go up the stairs, and there they are inside the St. Louis Suit Company. And the people who are watching this show can actually see that right now as part of the visual that we've got going on here when we're talking about them. But Jay and Nick run the thing. They've got a family that's all down there too. It's a great place. And like I say, as I found out today, Freeman Jr., and I don't know if Freeman Sr. did, but Freeman Jr. was a big buyer of clothes at the St. Louis Suit Company. And as well as, I'll tell you who else, Felicia, I know you know George Draper and Ronnie White.
Okay.
Both of those black chief justices of the Missouri Supreme Court did their shopping at the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. And by the way, they also do weddings. They're very good at weddings. So again, that's the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. Now, Jewel...
It's the best kept suit secret in St. Louis.
Well, not when we tell the story, I'll tell you that. 30 years. Some...
That's their slogan.
Yeah.
I'm on their website.
Oh, okay.
St. Louis Suit Company, 7903 Forsyth Boulevard, Clayton, Missouri.
Yep.
63105. And it says the best kept
Yeah, but not after we tell the story. But anyway, they are great, and they've been there 30 years. Now, my friend, just a little bit west of that, no, I'm sorry, a little bit east of the St. Louis Soup Company, is Jules on Hampton at 4506 Hampton. Are you a jewelry buyer, Felicia?
Not necessarily. I buy jewelry, but not like that. I think I'll give that to my sister. She's a huge jewelry buyer.
Okay, well, I can tell you that Al, who owns it and does all the great work there, along with his son AJ, they will tell you that, and they're not lying, that the best deals in town are there. They will work with people. They design jewelry. And I'll tell you, I have, which I'll show you sometime, my Seiko watch. It's a gold Seiko watch. It's 45 years old, and the watch repair is terrific at Jules on Hampton. And again, they're at 4506 Hampton, and they are terrific. They buy and sell gold, and they buy and sell coins, and they're great people, fun to talk to, and they are, again, Jules on Hampton. Now, if you go to 141 and Olive, which is a bit west, of course, you will find my very close friend, Medi. Medi owns and runs the Telena's Italian restaurant, which has been there, and get this, Felicia, 40 years. So obviously they're doing something right.
Almost always had a watch.
Yeah, come back for 40 years. That's right, almost as old as the watch. And they're great. The food is terrific. I don't know what kind of Italian food you like, Felicia, but I am a spaghetti and meatballs eater.
Oh yeah.
And the best spaghetti and meatballs I've ever had in my life are at Telena's in Creve Coeur, 141 and Olive. It's great. Great food.
And you said, where is it at again?
141 and Olive.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't miss it. Big shopping center, big sign. 40 years.
Right.
Okay, finally, a little bit west of them, and that's Wenty's, Wente. Wenty's is a great restaurant, a variety of food, but I can tell you, and I don't know if you like this, because it's not my thing, but they have, I'm told, the best chicken wings that you can get. Do you like wings?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A wing lady, absolutely.
Yeah, I am definitely not a wing person. I can tell you that for sure. I am not. However, the baby back ribs and the onion rings are unbelievable. Anyway, that's at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road, and that is Wenty's, run by another good friend of mine. His name is Ben, and he really knows how to run a restaurant. You'll love Wenty's. Okay.
That's not the place where you and Ray Martin went.
It is definitely the place we went.
Oh, I mean, you guys were excited about getting there.
It is good food and good people. Yep, that is Wendy's. So you remember, that's very good.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so now we're back to cell phones, addiction, and depression. What can you tell me about people getting depressed with these phones?
Can you hear me?
And now I can, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so the thing about it is, it's not the cell phone, right? It's the social media sites that they're going to. So if you're like my mother's really not a big social media person. She used her cell phone to play Candy crush.
Sure,
Right?
sure, I get it.
And she enjoyed it. I don't know. I've never played it. I tried to play it, but it just wasn't my thing. But she enjoys her games. Now, for someone that is at home, confined to the bed for the most part, confined to the room with limited mobility, if they were to be on their cell phones or any kind of electronic device on a repeated basis, watching people travel and go out to eat, what people, and even if you're not confined, maybe you have to work a lot for whatever reason, right? I think that the fear of missing out, right? They call it FOMO. The fear of missing out is a huge issue. The fear or just the not feeling that your life added up to what you thought it would be. You know what I'm saying? And so here you are watching people traveling, buy nice clothes, and get expensive colognes, and showcase their Seiko 45-year-old watch.
Right, right.
That is what leads to mental health issues. You may already been suffering with something. You may have already been having some challenges, and then that could add to that. That's the concern. Now, when you talk about the youth, right, the children in the classroom, you have some students who don't have access to their cell phone. They don't have access to the tablet or the electronic device. And so that becomes an issue in itself, a lot of jealousy, right? So now I want to, you might find somebody who say, well, I want to take with what you have because I don't have it. So now we have disruption in the classroom because somebody's cell phone is missing or somebody broke somebody else's electronic device. And simply out of here, I don't have it and you do. So you're dealing with a lot of different factors when we look at these electronic devices on every level. And I say that again, not just with the children. One of the things that I've told people, being a behavior health nurse, is to turn off that Facebook, turn off the Instagram, turn off your social media, because sometimes you can end up watching everyone else's life and feeling like, man, I didn't accomplish much. And you're trying to compare yourself to their Facebook life. When in actuality, their Facebook life is just their highlights. They're going through. But you don't know that because you're busy thinking like, oh my gosh, she's getting awards and he's getting awards and they just got a brand new car and they just built a house. And you don't know what type of debt they going in, and they might be living their best life.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, you begin to internalize that. And mentally, now you're going through. Now you're feeling your self-worth is not, up to par. It's not standing. It's your validation is really looked at on what the next person is doing on social media.
Okay,
It's
well,
crazy.
Felicia, we will continue this conversation when we get to the Freeman Bosley show, which would be this weekend, and we can have some additional talk about that on that show. But I'm told that we got to get out of here right now. So yeah, so let's run, and I will catch you on the Freeman show.
We'll do so.
Okay, thank you, Felicia, and everybody who joined us here tonight. I'm Mark Kasen. We'll be back on Monday, or you can hear us on KATZ 1600 over the weekend at 8 to 10 in the morning on Saturday and Sunday. I'm Mark Kasen. This is Showdown. Good night.